Have you ever just, stopped and thought about how your brain does that? How it takes this incredibly messy world and just sorts it all out? I mean, from telling a cat from a dog to deciding what counts as art, our minds are constantly classifying everything. So today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating theory about how it all works. All right, let's jump right in with a simple little puzzle. It's something you do, 1,000 times a day without even thinking about it. But it actually reveals a huge secret about how your mind is wired. Okay, so take a look at these two things. On the one hand, you've got this soft, shapeless beanbag, and on the other, a totally normal wooden chair. I mean, they have almost nothing in common, physically speaking. One's got legs, the other doesn't. One's hard, one's soft. And yet, instantly, that they're both chairs. So how, right? There's no single rule that could possibly cover both of them. Well, according to one really powerful theory, the answer is that our brains don't learn by memorizing some strict dictionary definition of chair. Nope. Instead, we learn from a kind of mental lineup of every single individual chair we have ever seen in our entire lives. This whole idea is called an exemplar-based approach. Now, exemplar sounds a little technical, but really, it's just a word for a specific example you've stored in memory. So when you see a new object, your brain doesn't pull out a rule book. Instead, it compares that new thing to all the individual, specific chairs it already knows. And I think this is the perfect way to picture it. Your mind isn't like a dictionary at all with these rigid definitions. It's much more like a gigantic, constantly growing photo album. When you see something new, you're mentally flipping through that album, looking for the closest matches. And if it's similar enough to a whole bunch of pictures you've already tagged as chair, well, then it's a chair. It's flexible, it's totally based on your own experience. Now, this isn't just a cool idea someone came up with. It's actually a pretty big deal in psychology, a landmark theory that put a formal structure around this exact concept. So let's look at how this intuitive idea becomes a real scientific framework. Okay, so its official name is the context theory of classification. And the most important part of that name is context. It means that every time you see a chair, whether it's at your desk, in a park, on TV, you don't just store the object. You store the whole scene, the context around it. You're not creating some abstract, averaged-out idea of a chair. You're building this incredibly rich library of actual, real-world experiences. And this idea has been around for a while, which gives it some serious weight. We're talking way back in 1978. That's when two psychologists, Medin and Schaffer, first published this. Their work really challenged the old way of thinking, the idea that we only learn through abstract rules, and it offered this powerful new perspective. But, in science, a great idea is just the beginning. The story didn't end in 1978. This concept was tested, it was argued about, and eventually it was refined and upgraded into an even more powerful model. And this is where it got a major upgrade. The key insight was figuring out a way to mathematically link our perception of similarity to the actual choices we make when we're classifying things. So if a new object is really similar to a ton of chair examples in your memory, you're much more likely to choose to call it a chair. It's all about probability. And this souped-up version is called the Generalized Context Model, or GCM for short. What it does is take that core photo album idea we talked about and give it some real mathematical teeth. The GCM actually provides a precise formula to predict how likely we are to classify something, all based on how similar it is to the examples we have stored in our heads. It turned a cool idea into a testable scientific model. So this all leads to a really fundamental debate about how our minds work. Is our knowledge built from a collection of specific vivid memories, or is it built on abstract general rules and summaries? It's a real tug-of-war. And you can really see the two competing camps right here. In one corner, you've got the exemplar models like the GCM we've been talking about. They argue that we store this rich, detailed library of every single thing we've seen. And in the other corner, you have prototype models. These suggest we kind of average out all the chairs we've ever seen to create one single perfect ideal chair in our minds. The GCM, though, argues for the messier, more detailed, memory-first approach. And that leaves us with a really big question to chew on. If this theory is right, if we really do learn from a personal library of examples, what does that change? I mean, think about it. Should we be teaching kids with hundreds of different examples instead of just one general rule? Should advertisers be showing your products in tons of different real-world contexts? And how do we build an AI that learns more like a person, with a rich photo album of experiences, not just a rigid set of instructions? It turns out the brain sorting hat might just be a scrapbook after all.